The early sunlight poured into the spacious hallways of the Whitmore mansion, as 27-year-old Emma Sullivan nervously adjusted the unfamiliar blue uniform and glanced at her reflection for one last time. She was standing in for her younger sister, Grace, who worked as a maid for one of the wealthiest families in the city, but had called in sick with the flu. Emma had reluctantly agreed to fill in, needing the extra income from her job as an elementary school teacher to cover their mother's medical expenses. In the grand foyer, with its polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and priceless artwork adorning the walls, Emma felt out of place. As a teacher, she was accustomed to modest classrooms, not this lavish luxury that surrounded her in the Whitmore estate. "You're Grace's sister, aren't you?" Mrs. Henderson, the head housekeeper, asked as she approached with a kind yet efficient demeanor. "Grace mentioned you'd be covering for her today." "Yes, I'm Emma," she replied, smoothing her uniform nervously. "Grace gave me some instructions, but I want to make sure I do everything properly." "Don't worry, dear," Mrs. Henderson smiled. "Grace speaks highly of you. Today should be quiet. Mr. Whitmore is working in his home office, and his son Oliver will be here most of the day. Just focus on the main living areas and the library." As Emma began her work, dusting the elegant furniture and polishing the spotless surfaces, she couldn't help but reflect on the vast difference between this world and her own. Each item in the house probably cost more than she earned in a month, yet something about the immaculate, cold spaces felt strangely lonely. While working in the library, Emma was first introduced to Oliver Whitmore, the 5-year-old son of the household. He appeared at the doorway, clutching a stuffed elephant and watching her with inquisitive blue eyes. Dressed in a light blue shirt and khaki pants, there was something melancholic about his expression despite his expensive clothes. "Hello," Oliver spoke softly. "Are you the new lady? Grace usually cleans this room." Emma knelt down to meet his gaze, her teacher's instincts kicking in. "Hello, Oliver. I'm Emma, Grace's sister. She's not feeling well, so I'm helping out today. Is that your elephant friend?" Oliver nodded, holding up the stuffed animal. "This is Peanut. He's my best friend because he never has to go to important meetings." Emma's heart went out to the boy as she sensed the sadness in his voice. Important meetings sound boring compared to adventures with Peanut. "What kind of adventures do you two have?" Oliver's face lit up, his first smile of the day. "Sometimes we pretend the library is a jungle, and Peanut helps me find treasure. But Daddy says I have to be quiet because he works here." Emma surveyed the grand library with its towering bookshelves and comfy reading chairs. "You know, Oliver, I think this room could be both a jungle and an office. Would you like to show me where you and Peanut explore?" For the next 20 minutes, Emma found herself swept into a vivid game of make-believe with Oliver, who seemed starved for adult attention. Together, they built a fort out of sofa cushions, played an elephant parade with Peanut, and even made paper airplanes that soared across the library. It was during this paper airplane game that a deep voice came from the doorway. "I see we have a new pilot in training." Emma looked up to see a man in his early 30s standing in the library entrance. He wore a white shirt and dark pants, and despite his casual attire, he carried himself with the authority of someone accustomed to leadership. His disheveled hair and tired eyes suggested he had been working long hours. Emma hurried to her feet, realizing she had been playing instead of working. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm so sorry. I was just finishing the library, and Oliver wanted to show me his games. I didn't mean to disturb you." Alexander Whitmore looked at his son, who was beaming with joy in a way he hadn't seen in months, then at Emma, who was clearly embarrassed. "Please don't apologize," Alexander said, his tone softer than Emma expected. "I haven't seen Oliver this happy in weeks. You said you're Grace's sister?" "Yes, sir. I'm Emma Sullivan. I'm a teacher, but I'm covering for Grace today since she's ill." "A teacher," Alexander mused. "That explains why you're so good with children. Oliver, it looks like you've made a new friend." Oliver ran over to his father, still clutching Peanut. "Daddy, Emma knows how to make the best paper airplanes, and she says the library can be both a jungle and an office at the same time. Can she come back tomorrow?" Alexander looked at Oliver's hopeful face, then at Emma, who was nervously straightening the sofa cushions. "Emma, would you mind if I asked you a few questions?" "Oliver, Why don't you take Peanut to the kitchen and get a snack from Mrs. Henderson? Once Oliver left the room, Alexander turned to Emma, his expression serious. Emma, I hope you won't think this is too forward, but I have a proposition for you. Emma's heart skipped a beat. What could a wealthy businessman want with a substitute maid? Oliver has been struggling since my ex-wife and I divorced 6 months ago, Alexander explained. She moved to Europe, and Oliver only sees her a few times a year. Balancing my company and being a single parent has been difficult. Oliver needs more attention and stability than I can provide with my schedule. Emma listened intently, beginning to understand the direction of the conversation. I've been looking for someone to help Oliver, someone who can provide both educational support and emotional care while I work. Watching you with him today, I can see you have exactly the kind of rapport with children that he needs. Emma stared at Alexander, not quite believing what she was hearing. Mr. Whitmore, are you offering me a job? I am, Alexander confirmed. The position would pay much more than your teaching salary, and you'd be helping a little boy who clearly needs someone like you. Would you be interested in discussing the details? Emma thought about her classroom full of students and her mother's medical bills. I love teaching, but I can't deny that the financial offer is tempting. Can I ask what happened to Oliver's previous caregivers? Oliver's had several nannies since the divorce, but none of them lasted long, Alexander replied, a hint of sadness in his voice. He's bright and sensitive, but most of the nannies just treated it like a job. Oliver needs someone who genuinely cares about him. Looking around the pristine library, Emma understood what Alexander was really saying. Oliver needed someone who would see him as more than a responsibility, someone who could offer warmth and genuine affection in his lonely, privileged world. What would you expect from me, Mr. Whitmore, besides taking care of Oliver? Emma asked. Alexander smiled, his first genuine smile since meeting her. I expect you to help Oliver with his education, of course, but more importantly, I expect you to help him understand that he is valued and loved for who he is, not just because he's my son. 6 months later, Emma had settled into her role as Oliver's governess and had become an essential part of the Whitmore household. She had transformed Oliver's life, turning the sad, withdrawn boy into a joyful, confident child. But she had also transformed Alexander's life in ways he hadn't anticipated. Her warmth had brought life to the sterile perfection of his home, and her insights had helped him become a better father. One evening, as they sat together in the library, watching Oliver read a story to Peanut, Alexander turned to Emma with something he had been meaning to say for months. Emma, there's something I should have told you weeks ago. When I hired you to care for Oliver, I thought I was just solving a childcare problem. What I've realized is that you're not just what Oliver needed, you're what I needed too. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she understood what Alexander was trying to say. These past months seeing you with Oliver, I've realized that what I've been missing isn't just a nanny for my son, but a partner for myself. With that, Alexander reached for Emma's hand. Emma, I've fallen in love with you. Not just because you're wonderful with Oliver, but because you've shown me what it means to have a home filled with love, not just expensive furniture. Emma smiled, reflecting on how covering her sister's shift had led her not only to a new career, but to a new family. I came here just to clean your library for a day. I had no idea I would end up finding the place where I belong. 2 years later, at their wedding ceremony in the same library where they had first met, Oliver served as ring bearer, carrying the rings in a small basket attached to Peanut's back. During his speech, Alexander shared how a substitute maid had become the love of his life. Emma came to us when we needed her most, not knowing she was exactly what our family had been missing, Alexander said. She taught Oliver how to laugh again, and she taught me how to love again. As Emma stood radiant in her wedding dress, surrounded by family and friends, she reflected on how the most significant changes in life often come when we're open to discovering where we're truly needed. As she danced her first dance as a wife, with Oliver and Peanut grinning on the sidelines, Emma realized that a simple favor for her sister had led to the most important job interview of her life. A job not just with a family, but a job built on love, laughter, and the heartwarming recognition that sometimes the most valuable work is simply caring for each other's hearts.